Okay, let's go.
Coming at you with episode 2, Love is Blind. Check chatters, and that's actually where we meet the third love triangle that we got going on between Jeremy, Laura, and Sarah. But kind of like this, I don't know, it was a little bit weird in the lounge with the guys. That's what I remember. I didn't even write down his joke or nothing, didn't care. But this man is Elon Musk. I don't care what y'all say. I saw him in the confessional, and I was like, holy crap. Elon.
He looks a little bit like somebody I went to college with, so I just didn't see that right away because I saw the other guy. But I could see that. I could see what you mean. But he is different. He has a big personality, and we see him meet up with Laura right away, and he calls her Sarah very confidently, very self-assured. And then when he's wrong, he totally walks it back and says that he was kidding. And do you know what? I believed him until I saw his damn date with Sarah when he admitted to calling her the wrong name on accident.
He said he was grumpy because he's older, but I just think it's because he's Elon Musk. He was nuts calling her Sarah all confidently and then just trying to play it off. And they did just kind of skate on past it. Notice that keeps happening.
Yeah, Laura is kind of a pushover a little bit. She's definitely very easygoing, but hope she's speaking up for herself a little bit more. I don't know where exactly in the episodes this is, but when Laura is in the women's dorm and she's talking to everybody about how she's been like trying different strategies every week to meet men, and sometimes she'll drop things and ask them to pick it up. And she was like, oh, yeah. And the best one is staring across from the bar and just staring at them all night. And she goes, but then I get really drunk and I'm like, she's like, if my friends all think I'm gonna get like a stalking charge or something. I don't know why, but that reminded me of Carly. Like she kind of has a Carly sort of personality. Like she's very happy and hilarious and always has something to say.
She does. She has a vibe about her.
Sarah Ann also is a vibe, but a much more chill vibe. She's like chill, cool girl. I don't know if she has enough personality necessarily for Jeremy, but we shall see because this is going to be a love triangle that we're going to get into pretty soon here. Then we see Amy and Johnny a little bit, and Amy shares with Johnny about her brother who has autism and ADHD, and she says that she's going to need for her partner to be like understanding that she's going to have to be a caretaker, and therefore they will have to be a caretaker at some point in the future whenever something happens to her parents.
It's a real thing. Actually, this is probably the only scene in the whole series of anything that I cried both times that I've watched. And I don't really cry usually when I watch reality TV, but it's because that literally describes my own life. So it was just crazy to see someone else on TV for once having that kind of problem. Because that is something that you got to bring up in every single relationship, because somebody might not want to do that.
It's like not exactly like having a child, but it's like having a future responsibility. It's a big responsibility to be a sibling or a family member of somebody who has special needs or has any kind of disability. And I mean, obviously, it's something that people are going to do, but it's a responsibility. Yeah, your partner needs to be okay with that. It's something that it would be sad if they were not, but your partner does need to be aware and okay with that.
Yeah, but this man had the audacity to tell her that if it wasn't through this whole shenanigan at show, being in pods, he would have definitely walked the other way knowing this. It's like, well, damn.
I know.
I mean, I've had to have that conversation a bunch of times with people, and I couldn't imagine somebody actually telling me that they.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, not saying that he wouldn't have every right to, but it's still kind of weird to have somebody accept it and then just say, like, oh, but I wouldn't have. Like, what? It seems like she didn't really mind. I was confused by that. I was like, man, I'd be like, oh, okay.
I know. Well, that's what I think is kind of a bizarre thing about the pods and why some of these relationships really don't work out when they get into the real world, because people go into the pods and I think they try to become a better version of themselves, which is all well and good and everything. But if you haven't actually done the work to become a better version of yourself, it's really easy for 5 or 6 days to try to be that person. But then when the real world hits you and this person's actual sibling is coming to live in your house, or you meet them for the first time and you see the weight of that responsibility, is that something that you're still actually willing to not just say you're going to do, but actually do? That's where I get a little bit leery about Love is Blind, because I really do love the experiment and I love the process, but I think people go into the pods, like, not trying to sell themselves in a manipulative way, but trying to be their best self and present their best self, and
Mhm.
we're not all our best all the time. He says he would do the same exact thing if he was in her shoes, so I definitely appreciated his supportiveness and empathy and compassion about all of that. We'll see what happens with them. Getting into the most important part of this episode, we have AD and Mathew, and she's ready to confront him.
Yeah.
Woo!
She goes right into that pod, and I didn't know she knew who was walking in there, to be honest with you. I think she was a little taken aback that she was gonna have to do this right away.
Yeah, I don't know who requests the dates, if they can both request dates or if they know who's coming in, because you can tell sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But he walked right in. He asked how she was doing. He didn't even sit down. I feel like he must have known.
When she started talking about all that, he's like, "Oh, with Amber," he knew.
Yeah, because he probably just got done saying it, because they make it look weird in the editing, but it looks like Mathew said all of this stuff to Amber in the morning, and in the morning is also when Amber told all of that stuff to AD, and then pretty much right away walked in hot on the Mathew date and confronted him and said, "I had a rough morning. I just learned that you said all of this stuff." It was like, it was just so, yeah, it was all so strange. He tried to play the whole, like, word game with her. Well, some of the things that I said weren't as deep as some of the things I said to her. No,
Yeah.
bro. How in the world can Amber walk in and say explicitly, word for word, several different things? Not just one thing,
Mhm.
not just a line. It was basically the whole conversation verbatim. Amber's not gonna walk in and embellish those words. That's what he said to AD. So of course he said that the next day to Amber and asked her to leave and asked her to draw him a map. I wonder if he asked her to get her blankie too.
The way this whole conversation was going reminded me of, like, a game show host, the way he was talking to her, like, he's just like, "Oh,
Yes.
you thought the probability of proposing to me was gonna be high, didn't you?" Like, the way he was just
I didn't get
asking
that
her.
at all. This is when I started to honestly get goosebumps when he was talking, and not in a good
Mhm.
way. I was freaked out. I'm like, "This man is manipulative." That's when I started wondering, is the therapy that he's in, is it court ordered? Is he some kind of weird stalker? I don't trust him at all. If you chick chatters were watching in the first episode that we covered, I am not a fan, have not been a fan. I wanted to like him for just a second, but no, he gets no chances. So I agree. His voice was so strange. Everything he was saying was so weird. It really kind of freaked me out. And he said that he wasn't giving her an ultimatum, but I asked you to leave with me yesterday. So are you basically telling her that if she would have left with you yesterday, then you wouldn't have asked, obviously you wouldn't have asked Amber to leave with you, but do you have feelings for Amber, or is this like some weird manipulation strategy? I don't get it.
Where's he taking him? Where is he taking him when he
To the
leaves
top
with
of
them?
the mountain. That's what he's wanna take you to the top of a mountain and propose to you. He's probably gonna push them off. He's crazy. I hope these women run fast. But for some reason, AD is still in. She listens to She is. This is
I
where
mean,
she
he is.
reminds me of me, the bad parts of me. I'm like, "Yeah, let's go."
I know,
She's starting to paint her nails red.
I couldn't believe she could get that little ultimatum from him. "Break off your connections, and I'll break off my connections. I'm gonna go do it today," basically.
He says, "A decision will be made tomorrow." I wrote in my notes, it's so funny that you talked about his voice. This is what it says. His voice is weird, like excited and also gross.
It was like a game show host, reminded me of.
He was so thrilled at the idea of having I think AD be jealous about somebody else. I don't even know if he cared that much about Amber, but we haven't seen his dates with Amber.
They
I
won't
don't know
show
why
him.
Netflix played us like that.
That's so weird to me. You're gonna show me this whole half of what happened, but you're not gonna show me Amber and his dates?
I know. I feel like there's something fishy going on there as well because Andrew's just a fishy guy. He stinks.
I don't know what his intentions were with leaving with these people. Because you signed up for a show, you know what's coming on with the show. You're gonna have to go do this and then that. I don't know. It was wild to me. So she goes right into another date with Clay, where she pretty much kind of starts to feel like that last date just didn't even happen.
We'd like to feel like that, and he started off nice. He apologized right away for asking what she looks like, and she starts to open up about what's going on, and immediately he gets jealous.
No, he's just like Mathew. He didn't even know who he was. Mathew has not been talking in that men's lounge, so he's like,
Well, he says, "Do you like me or you don't like me? Because this has nothing to do with me."
yeah.
He
And
was mad to even hear about a conversation, and then he said, "If you're in a love triangle, tell me what love triangle I'm in."
yeah, and then when she said Mathew, he's like, Mathew, and then he was like, who Mathew? He had no idea for about at least 3 seconds, and he's like, wait, what? And then you could tell this man's ego got hit with a baseball bat. Just by
So hard. So
he
hard.
had the best reaction I've ever seen.
I had the same reaction, really. I mean, so he
He's
can't
like, that's
fathom
not
it.
you. That's not you.
I know. But you know what? He's right. He's right because the way Matthew has been walking around in those men pods is so creepy and weird. Just like he's been acting in the actual dates. He doesn't talk to anybody. He sits in on people's conversations but doesn't join in on them. I think somebody tried to jump in his lap at one point and he just like stood up and walked away. People are trying to interact with him. He's so strange. So he's mad. He leaves.
He did sprints around that couch.
He like finally sprinted around enough times that he walked out the door.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we get our first crouched cry of the season from AD. We always get at least one.
We did. We do.
So AD goes back after that into living quarters and she tells Amber about Mathew. And Amber looks very surprised. She also looks really sad. It looks like they have all been friends, and there's another girl that's been involved in their conversations
Mhm.
that we don't really get to see her dating. But she's like, "You guys have been my favorite part of this whole experience so far." And she basically says this is her worst nightmare and she's going to bow out. I didn't honestly believe her when she said that.
I didn't either. But then they simultaneously show us that Clay goes back to the lounge and says that Matthew's a sleeper. Like, we've been sleeping on that guy. He was shook. He said he was
I
completely
know.
blindsided that Matthew specifically is his romantic rival.
This man. That's what he was thinking. This man.
What?
Jesus. Actually, speaking of Jesus, we move right in to the most religious couple of the season because we all need Jesus at this point.
Who is
So
this?
we meet Kenneth and Brittany together for the first time mid episode 2. Kenneth is
Mhm.
25. He's a principal. He said that life grew him up quick, that he planned his mom's funeral at 12 because he lost her to cancer, and that he pretty much lost everything after she died. So that was incredibly sad to hear, but he
Mhm.
sounds like he is an incredibly resilient person. He looks like he's doing fine. He's emotionally adjusted. He
Mhm.
walks into the pods and meets Brittany for the first time, who I think looks just like Sammy from Jersey Shore. She also lost her dad, who was an alcoholic. So they kind of connect on like a deeper way of people who have been through stuff in their childhood. And so they both naturally want a relationship that's positive, that's secure, that's feels safe, all of the things that people who've been through shit want to feel in their relationship. And she
Right.
also talks about how she wants to be led by her man, and I know that that's kind of a more of a religious sort of offering rather than a feminist sort of offering because she talks about being powerful in her real outside life, like working and things like that, but that she wants to come home and tell her kids to ask their dad and things like that. So then they do get into talking about family and religion. So they're really cute. They seem like they have like an immediate bond pretty much right away. And she also shares that her mom is a twin and that her aunt, who is her mom's twin, passed away and that she really wants to have twins as like a present to her mom. It's cute.
She also shares the same birthday as her mom and the mom's twin.
Yeah.
That was wild to me that she was born exactly a year later, so her mom didn't have to spend her birthday alone. That gave me chills. That was crazy.
I know. How special.
Yeah, I mean, her wanting to be a little bit led by man isn't just a religious thing, though. It's also just what a lot of people who have more traditional
Well, that's, I
things.
guess, what I meant by religious, like tradition, things like that.
But yeah, he is a pastor, preacher, or something.
He leads like real Bible studies.
I get it. I'm an ordained minister, so.
You sure are.
Internet. The internet tells you it, it's true.
We see Johnny and Amy for just a second. They have a little sushi date and he lets it slip that he loves her. And I thought that that was cute, but it was definitely a quick date. This accidental "I love you," I can actually believe. Again, unlike the couple from season 5 who lives rent-free in my head still to this day. He accidentally said "I love you." I don't even think he said "I love you." She just thought that he said "I love you." You remember that?
Yeah.
This one I believe. I think he does love her.
They love to show us our promised couple, so they seem to be our promised couple.
Definitely. I was thinking they're definitely gonna get engaged, and they're probably gonna get engaged soon. So, moving into Jimmy, Chelsea, Jessica stuff, we see Jimmy and Chelsea, and this had me confused because Chelsea is in the same outfit that she was in when she walked out on her date with Jimmy after telling him that she was divorced. Same outfit, same little weird stains on her chest. And I
Maybe
thought
she
that those
came back that same day.
I think she came back, but we're, like, so far away in this chronologically that I don't know, just it did confuse me. I do think she came back after she had a good cry, and they continued this conversation, and he said that he was sorry. He tells her that that wasn't the worst news that he heard that day. I think that that was his way of trying to reassure her.
I think.
She offers to talk about her divorce and he declines. He doesn't wanna ask her any questions about it, and I get that maybe you were having a reaction to Jessica having a kid and just took that out on Chelsea,
Mhm.
but it seems like something bothers you about this divorce, so you should probably ask some questions, unless you don't wanna get married to her.
I have, like, a hot take on Jimmy. He wanted to be with
Jessica.
Jessica until she dropped the child bomb, and then he got a little bit uncomfortable, then he didn't really know what he thought about the situation. He
Mm.
tried to throw himself a little bit into Chelsea, but then Chelsea tells him that she might look like Megan Fox, and then he starts really thinking about Chelsea. So he starts
Yeah,
abusing himself right out the
you're
gate.
right. You're right.
Mhm.
His face when she said, "Everyone says I look like Megan Fox."
Well,
He
she didn't even
looks
say it at first, she just kept alluding to who it was, and he's like, "Are you trying to say?"
Well, she said MGK's wife or fiance or whatever she
Yeah.
is. I'm like, "Girl, you know." I don't share that opinion, but
I think she looks like a different actress or something. I feel like she does look familiar to me, but you can't be going around saying you look like Megan Fox. I definitely do not look like Megan Fox. I would not be telling people I look like Megan Fox because then they're gonna expect me to look like that, and I do not. So then when I
that's
come
why
out, it's not gonna be me.
I'm like, "You're setting yourself up for failure here, lady." He thinks you're walking out like a supermodel, and you are a beautiful woman, and nobody should be disappointed when they look at you, but he's gonna be disappointed when he looks at you because of what you told him.
You always gotta say somebody who's more or less attractive than you, so this way when you come out
I look like I look like Yoda or like Hobbit or Sasquatch.
exactly. Something
Yeah.
that they won't see coming, and then this way they don't have that high expectation because then those doors open, no one looks like Megan Fox.
Nobody. Megan Fox don't even look like Megan Fox sometimes. It's all
That's
makeup.
true. That is true. Sometimes she don't even look like herself. Sometimes none of us look like ourselves. It is
True.
what it is.
It's all an illusion.
All an illusion. But don't be telling people you look like Megan Fox, especially men. They'll really hold on to that. I feel like he really held on to that.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you're right. He really kind of dove in afterwards because we do see a date with Jessica and Jimmy, and Jessica's really emotional, and it just doesn't seem like Jimmy is very interested. He definitely plays it off nice enough, but she's
Mhm.
emotional. She's talking about missing her daughter, and he asks about her and things like that, but he just didn't seem very excited about her in this conversation. Like she was giving a lot more. She even said in the date, "You're being really quiet today. What's up?" And he said, "I just want to hear your voice," which is a good enough response, but I don't buy it.
All of them are accepting everything in these episodes.
I know.
But he asked her if he's willing to have more kids, and that it's important for him and his family to have some of his own, which I'm sure she couldn't go on the show unless she was open to that kind of thing.
I mean, I just would assume she would be open to having more kids, but I don't run people's reproductive lives, so I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
fair question, obviously she is. I thought her answer was really cute because that does kind of give you a selling point when it comes to wanting to have a family that none of these other women
Mhm.
have. She said, "I can guarantee or promise that I'm going to raise our kids with the same like love and obsession that I do with my kid." And it's clear that she very much is obsessed with her daughter and loves her daughter
Mhm.
and is a fantastic mom. So I did
Right.
think that that was a really good way to have the family conversation, that that's actually something that she has to offer more so than everyone else. I think a lot of men think about women and vice versa, like people who have kids as something that they missed out on or like something that's not part of them. But I think it definitely can be because now you have a person capable of raising a child. Like, that's things you
Right.
don't know. Yeah, I liked her response. And they do get a little bit deep in this conversation, just sharing things about themselves. He says about his mom adopting his oldest sister, that both of his parents were actually both widows before they met each other, and that his mom took in her stepdaughter and adopted her. And Jessica really connected with that because Jessica was actually adopted and she shares kind of some of her backstory. Her parents had drug addictions. Her dad was in and out of prison. For a while, she lived with her dad, and then her dad ended up committing suicide. So she went back to foster care, where she said that she met her family and she
Mhm.
was adopted at 16. And then it sounds like she got pregnant when she was 17. So I mean, quite the upbringing that Jessica's had. It's pretty cool that she is a whole person functioning the way she is with everything she's gone through.
Yeah. She also does mention when she was adopted that when she got pregnant, she was able to keep custody of her kid because she was adopted. I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
She would have just her kid would have just went right into the system because she was in the system. But she's
right.
crying in the girls' quarters about Jimmy. I just noticed this. She's always talking in the girls' quarters about Jimmy. Always.
Always. She knows
Always.
that Jimmy's her husband. I think towards the end of this episode or maybe the next one, what does she say? Like, Jimmy's the first round draft pick.
Yeah. But what got me is her dress changed in this conversation. She was
Hmm.
wearing a black dress, and then she went to a green dress mid-conversation. Yep.
There is some weird editing going on here, for sure.
They like to mix us all around because those are 2 different dresses.
Well, maybe she changed. I don't know. We hop over to Chelsea and Trevor for a minute, and we get
Mhm.
my favorite conversation ever in the history of Love is Blind. And Trevor is laying on the floor, and Chelsea is trying to figure out, based on his voice, what he might look like. And she's like, "It's giving you're maybe really big." And he's like, "Mm-hmm." That part already had me cackling. And then she's talking about, "I can't decide if your hair is long or short, or maybe you have a mullet," saying it as a joke. And then he kind of comes back as a joke. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe I thought that you couldn't see me." And then she reveals to him that she's a sucker for a mullet and she really likes them and she gets all excited. She's like, "Please don't lie to me." And he's like, "No, no bullshit. I have a mullet." They're both so damn excited. And then the best line ever comes. He says, "I'm not sure if I like someone that likes a mullet because are you like mentally okay?" Dead. Like, I made Tyler watch that line and everything. He laughed. And it's a good question, honestly. He's probably
True.
used to all of his girlfriends bitching at him about his hair, and then here he's found Chelsea, and she has this weird, strange obsession for a mullet.
More power to her.
So we get our first proposal next. After that, we get Amy and Johnny, who is the obvious for us. Before he proposes, he asks her to make a couple of promises to him. The first
Mhm.
promise is that if he's ever doing anything wrong, that she lets him know right away so he can correct it, which is so precious. But again, I don't know if that stuff is real, but
That's
okay. And
true.
then he also asks for it to always be them until they die. He's like, I know other people are going to influence us and other things are going to go on, but I want it to always be us. She agrees to those things, and then he proposes, and she says yes.
That was a little weird for me.
It was weird. I didn't know what he meant by that.
I felt like he meant like he wanted it to last, but at the same time, it was just a really weird way of putting it. But let's make this thing last forever. Already enough things going on in these episodes. I do not need y'all confusing me with your words. Like,
No,
please.
just be straight up.
There's enough love triangles and all types of stuff going on here. Don't let the ones that don't have a love triangle or anything going on confuse me either. Please.
You're right. So, our final scene with Mathew, as we know it now, is Mathew being weird in the men's pods, not talking to anybody, and then he goes on his date with AD, and he walks in and his voice is all low, and she asks how he's doing, and he says he's going through it. She says, "What's up?" And he says, "Nothing." She says, "You're going through nothing." I loved that. Let's just be real for a second here. Obviously, AD
Mhm.
already knew that Amber left because Amber's not probably in the women's lounge. So he brings up Amber leaving, and they kind of get into the conversation about the whole strangeness that he has started here. And she tells him that she feels manipulated, but that she still likes him. And I couldn't
And
believe it.
she would have kept that going. He almost seemed like he was about to tell her what she wanted to hear. He was like, I've never felt with anyone the way I felt about you, but America loves an underdog. And I'm like, wait, what? This conversation took a hard U turn because I did
He
not see
totally
that
caught me off
coming.
guard with that.
Talking about the underdog of America, America's on his side now. And it's like, what do you think we've seen?
I know. It makes me wonder about his conversations with Amber, but I don't know. I definitely feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle, or this guy has a severe personality disorder or something. There's something going on.
Maybe a little of both because we definitely don't see the dates, which drives me up a wall.
It does.
But why
I'm
aren't they
really,
showing
really
it?
hoping that there's some kind of twist coming up at the later part of the season, that maybe we'll see some background between the two of them, him and Amber, and some of those dates. Because, I mean, if things go well, then we'll need some drama. I'm sure they're going to drop Andrew on us in some fashion, whether at a mixer or whatever. So
We keep
I don't
calling him Andrew. But
know. He's Andrew.
I think they were really weirdly miscommunicating too during this. He was acting like he was upset that he broke Amber's heart on TV and that he did it to her too, and that he was really gonna leave with her, but she
This is when he says that he can't commit to the plan that you want. So I'm
Mhm.
done. I'm leaving. And I'm like, what is the plan that AD wants that you can't commit to? Going through this process? It really seemed like he was not down for the blind meeting and getting engaged. It seemed like he wanted whoever he made a connection with to leave before the pods were over and do things their way. I know I'm filling in a lot of lines and making a lot of assumptions, but that's the only conclusion I can draw about his insistence that they leave, and his idea that he can't commit. What can't you commit to? Did you not take enough time off work, or are you not willing to get married right away? You just wanted to meet someone this way, or I don't know. But that's what he said. He can't commit, so he's done.
I have a hot take because he now knows that Amber left. So if he's got something weird going on, one of them has now left. Now time for me to leave. That's why he is like, I'm gonna go chase after.
I agree. And that's why I think AD was kind of sarcastically like, well, you really sound devastated about all of this, because he almost sounded excited. He was like, okay, Well, I wish you the best. I think you're great. Sorry things didn't work out, and can't give you what you want, which is what we all signed up for. So I'm done.
Anyways, like, this girl left and did what I wanted, so Imma just go after that. Pointless
Yeah.
to leave.
And that's what he says when he goes back into the men's quarters. He walks back in and he says, I'm done. I'm going to get Amber. I hope Amber is in the witness protection program.
Can we check on Amber? Is she
Somebody
around?
check on Amber. Amber can't talk for like another month until the rest of these are released. You know she has a story.
I need to know your story, Amber. I need to know if you're
Mhm.
okay. I love when he walks away, he's like, "America's going to be watching." And it's like,
We sure
"Ye
are.
yep."
We sure are. And you are the villain this season, sir. Sayonara. I hope you never
Me
find Amber. Any woman named Amber. Stay away from Andrew Mathew. So this is the end of this episode. We do see Johnny and Amy getting ready to have the first meeting of the season. So they're in their little powder rooms that they get ready to have their meetings in. And we get, of course, the flash of the silhouette and boom, blank screen.
boom, that's it.
So, all right. Well, we will see you on the next one. Chick chatters. Thanks for watching.
Me
Bye.